sky came swooping and fluttering, and settled down in the ashes. The little doves nodded their heads and began to peck, 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 and then the others began to peck, 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 and put all the good lentils into the bowl. Barely an hour had passed when they were done and flew back out the window. Cinderella brought the bowl to her stepmother and was overjoyed because she was sure that she would now be allowed to go to the wedding. But the stepmother said, "No, Cinderella, you have nothing to wear, and you don't know how to dance. Everyone would just laugh at you." When Cinderella began to cry, the stepmother said, "If you can pick out 2 bowls of lentils from the ashes in the next hour, then you can go." But she thought to herself, "She'll never be able to do it." After the stepmother had dumped the 2 bowls of lentils into the ashes, the girl went into the garden through the back door and called out, "Oh, tame little doves, little turtle doves, and all you little birds in the sky, come and help me. Put the good ones into the little pot, the bad ones into your little crop." 2 little white doves came flying in through the kitchen window, followed by little turtle doves, and finally all the birds in the sky came swooping and fluttering and settled down in the ashes. The little doves nodded their heads and began to peck, 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 and then the others began to peck, 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 and put all the good lentils into the bowl. Barely a half hour had passed when they were finished and flew back out the window. The girl brought the bowls back to her stepmother and was overjoyed because she was sure that she would now be able to go to the wedding. But her stepmother said, "It's no use. You can't come along because you don't have anything to wear and you don't know how to dance. You would just embarrass us." Turning her back on Cinderella, she hurried off with her 2 proud daughters. Now that no one else was left at home, Cinderella went to her mother's grave under the tree and cried, "Shake your branches, little tree, toss gold and silver down on me." The bird drew down to her a dress of gold and silver, along with slippers embroidered with silk and silver. Cinderella quickly slipped on the dress and left for the wedding. Her sisters and her stepmother had no idea who she was. She looked so beautiful in the dress of gold that they thought she must be the daughter of some foreign king. It never occurred to them that it could be Cinderella, for they were sure that she was still at home, sitting in the dirt and picking lentils out of the ashes. The prince approached Cinderella, took her by the hand, and danced with her. He didn't intend to dance with anyone else there, and never even let go of her hand. Whenever anyone else asked her to dance, he would just say, "She's my partner." Cinderella danced well into the night, and then she wanted to go home. The prince said, "I will go with you as your escort," for he was hoping to find out something about the family of this beautiful young woman. But Cinderella managed to slip away from him, and she bounded into a dovecote. The prince waited until Cinderella's father arrived and told him that the strange girl had disappeared into the dovecote. The old man thought, could it be Cinderella? He sent for an axe and pick and broke into the dovecote, but no one was inside it. And when they returned home, there was Cinderella lying in the ashes in her filthy clothes, with a dim little oil lamp burning on the mantel. Cinderella had jumped down from the back of the dovecote and run over to the little hazel tree, where she slipped out of her beautiful dress and then put it on the grave. The bird took the dress back, and Cinderella put on her grey smock and settled back into the ashes in the kitchen. The next day, when the festivities started up again and the parents had left with the stepsisters, Cinderella went to the hazel tree and said, "Shake your branches, little tree, toss gold and silver down on me." The bird tossed down a dress that was even more splendid than the previous one, and when she appeared at the wedding in this dress, everyone was dazzled by her beauty. The prince, who had been waiting for her to arrive, took her by the hand and danced with her alone. Whenever anyone came and asked her to dance, he would say, "She is my partner." As night fell, Cinderella wanted to leave, and the prince decided to follow her, hoping to see which house she would enter, but she bounded away and disappeared into the garden behind the house, where there was a beautiful tall tree with magnificent pears hanging from its branches. Cinderella climbed up through the branches as nimbly as a squirrel, and the prince had no idea where she was. He waited until her father got there and said to him, "The strange girl escaped, but I believe that she climbed up into the pear tree." The father wondered, could it be Cinderella? And he sent for an axe and chopped down the tree, but no one was in it. When he went to the kitchen with the prince, Cinderella was as usual lying in the ashes, for she had jumped down the other side of the tree, taken her beautiful dress to the bird on the hazel tree, and slipped on her little grey smock again. On the third day, when the parents and sisters had left, Cinderella went to her mother's grave and said to the little tree, "Shake your branches, little tree, toss gold and silver down on me." The bird tossed down a dress that was more splendid and radiant than anything she had ever seen, and the slippers were covered in gold. When she got to the wedding in that dress, everyone who saw her was speechless with amazement. The prince danced with her alone, and if someone asked her to dance, he would say, "She is my partner." When night fell, Cinderella was planning to return home, and the prince wanted to escort her, but she slipped away so quickly that he was unable to follow her. The prince had planned a trick. The entire staircase had been coated with pitch, and when Cinderella started running down the stairs, her left slipper got stuck in the tar. The prince lifted it up. It was a dainty little shoe covered with gold. The next morning, the prince went with the shoe to his father and said to him, "Only the woman whose foot fits this golden shoe will be my bride." The two sisters were overjoyed to hear the news, for they both had beautiful feet. The elder went with her mother into a special room to try it on, but the shoe was too small for her, and she couldn't get her big toe into it. Her mother handed her a knife and said, "Cut your toe off. Once you're queen, you won't need to go on foot anymore." The girl sliced off her toe, forced her foot into the shoe, gritted her teeth, and went out to meet the prince. He lifted her up on his horse as his bride and rode away with her. But they had to pass by the mother's grave, and two little doves were perched on the hazel tree calling out, "Roo, coo, coo, roo, coo, coo." straight in the face, he recognised the beautiful girl with whom he had danced, and he shouted, "She is the true bride." The stepmother and her 2 daughters were horrified, and they turned pale with rage, but the prince lifted Cinderella up on his horse and rode away with her. When they passed by the little hazel tree, the 2 little white doves called out, "Roo, cuckoo, roo, cuckoo." No blood at all in that shoe, the foot's not long and not too wide, the true bride's riding at its side. After they had chanted those words, the doves both came flying over and perched on Cinderella's shoulders, one on the right, the other on the left, and there they stayed. On the day of the wedding to the prince, the 2 false sisters came and tried to curry favour with Cinderella and share in her good fortune. When the bridal couple entered the church, the eldest sister was on the right, the younger on the left. The doves pecked one eye from each sister